This church leader tool is the fourth in this series as I'm summarizing the wonderful little book, Your Leadership Edge. And just to review, each part in the book has a very definite flow to it. So we started out with diagnose the situation, and then manage yourself, be aware of your own particular role, then energize others, we talked about, and now finally, intervene skillfully. And like the previous three parts of the book, this fourth part is broken down into 6 short chapters. So first, to intervene skillfully, make conscious choices. And there's really 2 components to that. The first is to make choices. Sometimes this can be hard. We may not have all the data. We might be wrong, and so we're kind of concerned about that. But remember, not making a choice is still making a choice. We have to make the choice and then make it consciously. Not just roll from one thing to the next, but with deliberation say, this is the choice. In fact, probably from a list of choices, this is the deliberate choice that I'm going to go ahead and make. And that's going to be in line with my purpose and our mission. And we'll talk at the end about focusing on purpose. So we're going to consciously make choices and then raise the heat. And we've mentioned this earlier, how there's a productive zone. If there's not enough heat, nothing gets done. And if there's too much heat, there's anxiety and conflict that can get in the way. But we want to be in that middle zone where we raise the heat. And how do we actually do this? Well, partly that's speaking out. That's saying hard truths, inviting conversation and discussion and interpretation of this, talking about the things that perhaps bother you or that bring concerns or frustrations. It's saying it out loud and then acting upon it, assigning responsibilities and timelines to try and engage in some action to make progress. As mentioned before, if you're the kind of person who is more silent, then maybe that means speaking out. If you're the kind of person who normally jumps in, maybe that means being a little bit more silent and reflective. It certainly means asking for input from other folks to engage in the hard work of change. And we'll talk in a moment about giving the work back. We're not going to make progress unless we raise the heat. I love the quote that's mentioned in the book. When you can't make them see the light, make them feel the heat, by Ronald Reagan. I think that's a great reminder of why we need to raise the heat. And then speak from the heart. The book introduces the idea of being a servant leader, where you're focused more on the other person. And the idea here is speaking from your heart to connect with their heart. What is a concern and a value for them? The book doesn't bring this idea in, but I read this section and it made me think about the classic leader John Cotter and his book Leading Change. But later he wrote a book called The Heart of Change, where he recognized that bringing your heart into a change is also very critical in successful change. It means thinking about what others care about, what their hopes and dreams are, and speaking to this. Maybe telling a story or an illustration that has passion in it, that helps connect with where folks are at and brings those hearts together. So speak from the heart and then give the work back. I really like how this particular section started with a reminder that A-type personalities oftentimes take too much of the work themselves. But adaptive leadership means bringing others into the hard work of moving forward. Now, oftentimes as a leader, we might be the one to instigate things, but once we've instigated, others have to be engaged, and that way they're committed to whatever that direction is. And it doesn't mean just delegating that change. It means bringing folks in on the front end of challenges. And the book really identifies that there are 3 phases to giving the work back. The first of those is problem identification. And again, this is done by a group of leaders, not just by the key leader. So first, identify the problem. And then the second is solution identification. So first we're going to do problem identification, then solution identification, and then only after that, solution implementation. And all three of those phases are engaged with the group. And it's important to remember why that we need to give the work back. It gets more perspectives, there's more learning, the solutions end up being broader, and there's buy-in and collaboration in solving the solutions to giving the work back. And then the fifth chapter is act experimentally. And we've mentioned this before. Experimentation is key in adaptive leadership. It helps us learn what works and what doesn't work. It's often better to start with smaller experiments rather than one big one. And it's okay to go simple and easy to start. And make sure that whatever experiments you do, debrief and evaluate and learn from them. The more you do this, experimentation becomes a norm in your church or your ministry setting. And the more you learn from that. And then finally, hold to purpose. While you're doing the hard work of heading in new directions, be clear about your underlying purpose and mission. It's just too easy to get distracted in today's busy world. Purpose will always keep you pointed in the right direction. Methods and strategies, they may change, but keep that purpose in front of you. I like how the book highlights that you can even have daily patterns in your life to help you focus on your purpose. And it highlights that Ed O'Malley has a couple of daily practices that help him stay on purpose. They are, for him, pray, read, eat well, exercise, review finances, spend time with family, plan his day, and send a friend or family member a note. It might be different for each one of us, but to have those daily practices that help us focused on purpose. And another great way to do this is then to debrief and reflect on where you've been, and that will help reinforce that sense of purpose. Well, I hope that this series on your leadership edge has been a blessing to you. A reminder that there are discussion questions and a PDF of these PowerPoints. And as always, if this has been helpful to you, forward it on to other leaders in your situation that they can grow their leadership edge as well. Take care and God bless.